Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. Steve Jobs. All right. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad Podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. I'm your host, DL, America's most objective libertarian. For tuning in live, thank you so much for giving me your time so early. All right. Today, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to spill the beans, if you will. I'm going to talk about the issues that I have with Rumble, kind of where we're going and some problems. It's not going to be a trash fest. Don't get me wrong. I'm still planning on using Rumble. We're just going to be diverging. We're going to be parting ways when it comes to the Rumble Creator Program. But first, what I would like to talk to you about is something of even more importance. So let me put this up on the screen here for you. All right, so this comes from youarethepower.net. And actually, you know what? Maybe I should show you something else that kind of alerted me earlier. So somebody had reached out, and they were like, hey, DL, can you talk about this? This is happening. And so I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'll talk about it on my show. So let me put this up on the screen here for you guys. And where are we here? Let's take that off. Why is that being that way? How about... There we go. All right. So this was a post from You Are the Power. You might remember past episode where I had Spike Cohen on. That's his organization. What they do is they go out and they find people that are being abused by the system, and they effectively raise a lot of noise on their behalf. So what they do is they find somebody that's maybe been wronged by the system. They vet it. They go through and they determine, okay, what's going on here? What is the truth? Is there sufficient evidence to support this person, or would we be supporting potentially a bad person or somebody that, where the evidence is just unclear, right? So they do their due diligence. So here's their post about 10 hours ago. Help reunite the Patterson family before it's too late. The Patterson family just received devastating news. Their appeal to the Florida Supreme Court has been denied, and they are now facing a ticking clock. They have until this Friday to file an injunction before the court's mandate is lifted. After that, they could lose their last chance at reunification. The only person with the power to stop this is Taylor Hatch, Secretary of the Florida Department of Children and Families. In the comments section is a link that will take you to an email template where we can respectfully demand that Taylor Hatch intervene and allow this innocent family to be reunited. All right, what's the story here? What's the background for this? Well, glad you asked. We're going to dive into it really quickly. So here's from youarethepower.net. Let's see here. Let me pull that up so I can see it. So urgent call to action. Medical misdiagnosis injustice in Florida. This is the family in question. All right. Go down here. Man, that's tiny print. Let me see if I can't zoom in on that so that as I'm reading it, you can read along here. Apologies. There we go. All right. Michael and Tasha Patterson are loving parents whose 3 children were prematurely seized by Florida Child Protective Services in 2022. And they have been fighting relentlessly to reunite their family ever since. The Pattersons were falsely accused of abusing their medically fragile twins, and subsequent medical evaluations revealed that they, like their mother, have Ehlers-Danlos, I think that's how you say it, syndrome, a genetic connective tissue disorder. The twins were also diagnosed with metabolic bone disease. These conditions were found to be the underlying cause of their susceptibility to injury. The twins have documented injuries dating back to when Tasha was pregnant, during their birth, and while hospitalized. The twins suffered additional injuries in state care due to their medical fragility. Only after preventative medical interventions were implemented did the twins' injuries subside. One of their medical experts, the founding father of child abuse pediatrics, Dr. Eli Neuberger, reviewed the Patterson case. He determined that no abuse occurred, but rather this is an instance of medical misdiagnosis and that the accusing child protective medical provider violated the standards of care for child abuse pediatrics. Despite overwhelming evidence of innocence, the children have not been returned to their parents and could potentially be adopted. Michael and Tasha are fighting to vindicate themselves from false allegations and reunite their family. The Patterson case has led to the proposal of Florida Senate Bill 304 and Florida House Bill 511. I will look those up, and I will do a bill review on them at a later point. These bills aim to give parents the right to a second medical opinion in cases involving allegations of abuse. Despite these efforts and the fact that lawmakers have declared Michael and Tasha to be factually innocent, they are still without their children. The situation has been described by former dependency judge and Florida Representative Pat Maney as, quote, a miscarriage of justice, highlighting the urgent need for action and effective reform. The Florida Department of Health Children's Medical Services Program oversees the child protection team in Florida, which misdiagnosed the Patterson twins, leading to the cascade of injustice that the family has needlessly endured. The child protection medical provider who wrongfully diagnosed the Patterson twins as abused was not certified in child protection by the state of Florida at the time she made the allegations against Michael and Tasha. And even more troubling, she was not certified during their trial, where she gave damaging testimony. This same physician is no longer a part of Child Protection Services, yet the Pattersons are still trying to undo the damage she caused nearly 3 years ago. Using the template below, please email DCF Secretary Taylor Hatch, DCF Chief of Staff Samuel Kearse, and the statewide Child Protection Team Medical Director Dr. Carol Lilly. Respectfully ask them to undo the harm to the Patterson family and reunite Michael and Tasha with their children. Your support is crucial in this fight for justice. So if you go to this link, youarethepower.net/Patterson. I'll put it in the comments. There's a little button here. You can click on this, and this tells you who to email, and it gives you a template. Make sure that if you are emailing these people, that you are respectful. The last thing that You Are the Power needs is somebody emailing them and going, you dirtbag, MFer, this and that. Don't do that. Be respectful. There is a time and a place to, call someone out, to be harsh. This is not it. This is the time and the place to get somebody to somebody's, their family back. I guess you could say all of them, if you will, all 5 of them. I'm speaking of the adults in particular. So please go ahead and do that. Let me put this in the chat there. And let's see here. We'll put it in the chat. I'll also add it to the show notes. I think I forgot to add it to the show notes earlier. So there we are. All right. So that's just what I wanted. Somebody had reached out last night, and they were like, hey, DL, the clock is ticking on this. Can you use your voice to help bring more awareness to this? And I said, absolutely. Because as a father, the last thing that I could imagine is having to go through, child protective services, fighting for your kid when you've done nothing wrong. And if there's one thing that I will trust Spike Cohen, it's that when he says, hey, this case needs attention, these people are innocent, I'm going to trust him because he puts a lot of energy and effort into ensuring that, yes, these people that they're fighting for on their behalf, these people are, in fact, innocent. So please go do that. Again, it's youarethepower.net/Patterson. Go check that out. We've got until Friday to get some people to change their minds. I mean, let me put it this way. If you believe in family at all, this should appeal to you. Because what we're trying to do is help build families, help keep families, right? And anybody that's watched this show knows that I'm really big on fatherhood, motherhood as well. I don't talk about it nearly as much because I'm a dad, but I believe in that just as much. But families, mothers, fathers, children, that's a big deal to me. So please go and do that. All right. So I want to show you guys something kind of cool here. All right. So let me put myself over here and I'm going to do something interesting. So let's see. Let's do this. My VA lady says, do me a solid and hit the thumbs up button. Now why am I here? Hold on. Let's do this. Let me move myself up a wee bit. There. Now, thumbs up button on the way in. And don't forget to share the live stream. Make sure to subscribe or follow and hit the bell so that you always know when Liberty Dad is going live. Thank you so much for my VA lady. I now have comments on the chat. So I told you guys that there are two ways to do this stream. So today, what I'm going to do, just so we're clear, I'm going to tell you what's going on with Rumble. And there's some good and there's some bad. Well, I don't want to say bad, just not for me. How about that? Okay. So the first thing was yesterday I was like struggling because I had a whole new layout. I was off my game, so I felt like I was rambling. Today we're going to do much better. I sat and I just spent a little time fiddling with it, clicking around like, oh, look, here's where I can add the chat to the screen. And so now you can see that I can add. Now, I will say this. It only applies to those who are on YouTube or on Rumble. So if you are on X or if you are on Facebook, I will not be able to show your comments on the screen at this particular time. I will keep looking to see if I can make that happen. And the reason for that is because the connection between Rumble and the different platforms is just it's different. That's probably the easiest way to say it. There's a better connection between obviously if it's coming from Rumble, then I'm using Rumble's system, so you would expect that I can put their comments on the screen relatively easily. YouTube plays very nice, and the two systems talk to each other very well, so I can just click a button and get them up on the screen. We don't have that for X, and we don't have that for Facebook, so I cannot bring those comments up on the screen. But I do have windows open so that I can keep tabs and watch and say, okay, well, at least somebody has commented, so there. So about Rumble, I got an email. So I told you we hit our numbers for last month. I'm in this program, and this program has requirements, which is cool. Like, I get it. You want somebody to pay you. They want to see you delivering something. That's how the real world works. I have no issue with that. But there does come a time where you look and you say, is what it's going to take to get paid, does that work for me? And you could do that with your job, right? Your boss might say, all right, well, here's some more responsibility. Here's some more responsibility. And you might at one point go, you know what? I don't think this responsibility lines up with the pay or what I was expecting or whatever, right? And then you can just make a choice and you can say, I'm going to go job hunting. I'm going to go look and find somewhere that suits me better. That's how the real world works, right? Or you might say, yeah, it's not so bad. I don't like this and that, but they're not so intrusive, whatever. So you have to make a decision. And so I'm making a decision. So let me put this up on the screen. So when I entered the program, you guys know that I had to meet certain requirements. And so here we go. There we go. So here are some of the requirements that you can see. Create a program, August for 2025. So it started out, in order to get in the program, the first thing I had to do is I had to pay for Rumble Premium. Okay, cool. No big deal there. It's like $8 a month or something. Okay, fine. And then, like what they say, like it takes money to make money. Okay, cool. So I become a paying subscriber. And then it was like, okay, now you have to stream 30 hours in the last 30 days. Then you can submit to be part of our program. So I did that. Cool. Got in. Then they were like, all right. And I knew some of these details going in. So they were like, you're going to have 200 watch hours. Now, it was funny. When I first got in that very first month, I started really digging deep, and I was like, "Ooh, this 200 watch hours is going to be tough." So I begged and pleaded all my friends to like watch as many videos as they can. I was like, "Yo, just go to my channel, just start watching stuff." Um, and then after that, I think it was after the first month, about the middle of the month, about the middle of June. Actually, I think it was not May, but it was in June. Was that right? Yeah, I think it's right. So I got in on May, and then June, and then in the middle of June, I got an email, and they said, "Hey, we're going to update our requirements." And I was like, "Oh, are you now?" And they said, "You got to have, we're thinking that the number is going to be 20, but you're going to have chatters." And I was like, "Oh, what's chatter?" So I look in. That's just somebody who comes in during the live stream and makes a comment from the Rumble platform. And I was like, "Oh, okay, that seems kind of tough, but why not? Let's give it a go." I can understand that you want people participating, and people are going to participate more likely if you have an engaging host. So this kind of like pushes people to make sure that you're actually engaging in some way, right? Maybe you're just, you've got a really great voice and you're saying some really great things and it's really spurring people to want to comment, or you're having a conversation, kind of like a back and forth with the audience, and you're like, "Hey, what do you guys think about this?" Maybe you're a gamer or something like that, right? So it's just basically a way to get more people interactive on the platform. All right, cool. No big deal. Then down here at the bottom, not at the bottom, but close to the bottom, second to the bottom, you had this Rumble Premium exclusive hours. So what they wanted was, they were like, "All right, you have to stream 5 hours worth of Rumble Premium." And I was like, "Okay, what that means is if you're not a Rumble Premium subscriber, if you haven't paid your like $8 a month or whatever, you won't be able to watch it." And I said, "Okay, maybe that's just incentive to get people to want to pay for it. Like, oh, there's more content that I could access if only I'm willing to pay for it." Then somebody might say, "Well, all these channels are doing it. Let me check it out." Okay, that makes sense to me. I totally get it. Then this month happened. Okay. And mind you, the reason I'm even telling you all of this is not so I can air out my gripes and have a beef with Rumble, is because I spent all these last few months, telling the audience, "Please go do this. Please do this. Please help me out with the program." So when I make a major decision about the program, I think it's only fair to tell you what in the world is going on, why I'm making the decisions that I do. Okay. I want to be as transparent to my audience as I possibly can. So then I get this email on August 1st, so that would be a Friday, midday. Like it was like 12:30 in the afternoon, okay, Friday. And it said, "Hey, we've updated our requirements. You have to do 5 ad reads." And I was like, "What's an ad read?" All right, do you already see the problem here? I did my stream at 7:30 in the morning on Friday. So basically my stream is over for Friday. And I was not planning to come back Saturday or Sunday. Okay, because I normally just do Monday through Friday. And then midway through the day, I get an email saying, "Hey, you have a new requirement in order to stay in the program. It's this thing that you've not even heard about. And by the way, we're only telling you, halfway through the day, the first day, you've already missed an opportunity. And then the next 2 days, you won't have an opportunity. So, get on it." And so then I had to go and research and be like, what is an ad read? An ad read is what they have is they have some companies that are working with them in some way. They've made some agreement or whatever. And so they have scripts. And these scripts will be like, the host reads them on the air during their stream. And they have to meet a certain requirement, I believe, as far as how many viewers. So some of them, and I'll show it to you in just a moment here. So some of them will say like, you've got to have an audience of 10 in order for it to count, whatever. So, and they have specific requirements on these ad reads. Has to be the host. You have to be on air. You can't, can't do it quietly in the background. You have to have a 10-minute video at least. Okay, all those are fine. That totally makes sense. That way people don't game the system and, go and stream for 5 minutes and only read an ad and then be like, "Look, I read an ad, just not during my regular." So I understand. You're trying to make sure that if we're paying you, that you are doing something for us. Cool. Don't have any issue with that. All right. So here's the ad reads. Let me just kind of show them to you a little bit. So where are we? Let's go to this. All right. So, and you might have trouble seeing it on the screen. I'll do my best. I couldn't zoom in enough because it's meant for like a full-on laptop, and they don't really have it sized well for, a smaller layout. But here's what they look like. So it says available for you in history. You don't have to worry about all that. So here are the different ad reads, and you're going to probably have trouble seeing them, but it looks like there's a something called a breeze box, and this is like a humidifier or something like that. But then there's also some prescription drug ads, or it's a company that sells prescription drugs. So I think it's kind of like you go there and you can get them. So if you click on it, you click on the view details. Let's see, that's not that one. Let's see, is this one? Yeah, here's this one. So they have the script that they want you to read. So here's the script. And let me just read the first sentence or two. I'm not going to read the whole script because, then I would have to get paid. So it says, hey, everyone, tired of paying outrageous prices for your medications while other countries pay a fraction of the cost. President Trump signed an executive order to fix this problem, but why wait? And so then they go into, who's selling it and where you can go and et cetera. I've never even heard of this company. And I'm like, well, I don't know if they're a good company. I don't know anything about them. So how can I, in good conscience, ask you to go to their website and purchase something from them? But what kind of found annoying here is these instructions. On some of them, they have instructions. It says, please emphasize the phone number clearly, and they've got the number. Focus on the connection to President Trump's recent drug pricing policies. Target tone should be conversational and patriotic, speaking to Americans who feel ripped off by high drug prices. Right? And so I was like, oh, okay. Now, at first, I was like, maybe. Like, maybe I could get behind that. But then as I dug a little deeper, I realized something very interesting. So if you can see it over here where my mouse is, there's a 250 here, there's a 50 here, and there's a 10 here. Okay? And it says minimum viewers, does that say HIP? HIP. I don't know what the HIP is now. But, minimum viewership. I'm sorry. It's just, it rolls over. It's carried down. Okay. The word is wrapping, but it's kind of looking weird. All right. So minimum viewership. So what this means is in order for me to even read this, I have to have a certain viewership at the time of reading it. Otherwise, it won't count. So like if I want to read this 10 and 10 of you aren't watching live at the time that I read it, then it won't count. So if there's 8 of you watching and then I read it, well, I've read it for nothing. And I have to have 5 of them. So what does that mean? Well, that means one of two things. Either you're a channel that already has these numbers, and perhaps you have other ways, other streams of revenue, and you don't have to necessarily play game, or you have to have those numbers, and you have to have them live, right? And maybe you do, maybe you don't. And so then you have to find maybe different topics that will get more people in. You have to maybe read more viewer ads or at least be more cognizant of it. And I can look over, I can't show it to you necessarily on this other screen, but there is a screen where I can see the ad reads. And it shows, let's see, it says 0 out of 3. Maybe they changed it. They might have changed it down to 3 because it was 5. But I'm looking and none of them are available. So if I wanted to read one to you right now, I can't. And here's the problem. Like for me, a lot of my audience, a lot of my views end up being after the live stream. Part of that is probably because the time that I'm streaming, it's 7:30. A lot of people are getting ready for work. They're going to work. They're at work. They're dropping their kids off. So perhaps, it's a bit of a challenge to necessarily tune in, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I get it. You guys are busy. We're all busy. So for me, I looked at it and I said, I'm going to be spending more and more of my time worrying about their metrics. That's not what I want to do. I want to focus more and more on delivering you a quality show. We already struggle with trying to get here on time, okay? So it's not like I need any more difficulties added to me. Now, I also get it. At the same time, you know, you're being paid by Rumble. They want something. People don't just pay you for nothing. I'm not a commie. I'm totally a libertarian. I'm all about the free market. However, sometimes you look at the free market and you say, that's not the direction that I want to go. And if it's going to cost me, then it's going to cost me. And so for me, I'm abandoning this creator program, not because they're terrible and they stink and I hate Rumble and all this. None of that. I just simply said, I don't think this is the direction that's right for me for my show. And there were two elements to that. Number one, I want to focus on the content that I want to focus on, right? Which means I don't want to have to try to shift my focus so that I can get increased viewers, this early in the morning or when I'm live streaming. I don't want to do that. I don't want to necessarily change my my time so that I can fit into what their requirements. That's not what I'd like. The other thing is, I'm not going to pitch to you something that I don't at least believe in. Now, maybe I don't always use all of the products, right? I'm not like as if I got a whole bunch. There might come a time where I promote something to you and I'm not actively using it. And I'm okay with that, so long as I at least support it and am familiar with it, right? So, like, for instance, let me give you a good example. There's something that I haven't really started adopting yet. It's called Ground News. Well, if I were to get into a partnership with them, which some streamers are, I would be comfortable presenting to you because I've actually used it. I just don't use it on a regular basis. And I think it's a great tool. I think it's very valuable. I just, there's just so many things going on that I can't get to everything necessarily. So for me, in that particular case, I would say, yeah, I've used this product. I stand behind it. I think it's a good product. I think you should too, right? And I guess that was a freebie kind of. But I'm not going to promote to you a business that I've never even heard of, that I don't know what happens for the medications if you purchase from them and you get the wrong ones. Are you going to have to, spend 2 or 3 hours arguing with them to get your refund, to get the right medication? I don't know. I don't know about any of this stuff. Where are they sourcing it from? How much can you trust it? I don't know any of those answers. So I'm not going to support them. And then the other one, it was like a humidifier or something. And I was like, you can just go to Walmart and pick up a humidifier. I don't know if it was it was something like that, a humidifier, or, one of those kind of devices. So that's where I am. And I'm telling you this because, I've spent so much energy getting people to, chat in the chat, which you still should, by the way, still do that. I mean, I did spend a great deal of time yesterday figuring out how to get the chat back up on the screen. So definitely please chime in. We're just not necessarily needing chatters at this time. Now, if things change, then I'll let you know and I'll say, oh, look, they've changed. They've added some companies that maybe I can get behind or something, right? If something significant changes, then I'll let you know. I don't really expect it, but I'm keeping that door open just in case. All right. Now, as far as Rumble platform, I still like the platform, actually. I like the fact that, it's much more inexpensive than other options, and it meets the needs that I currently have. So I'm good with that. No issues. Okay. But I have been told by some of my friends that have watched my show, they're like, dude, there's a lot of ads in here. And so, the idea of you might have to watch a bunch of placed ads, which have nothing to do with me, and then you might have to listen to me give you an ad, like that's a little bit too much, in my opinion. And the fact that I could read an ad and not even qualify irritates me even more because I'm like, I know you're trying to, build your platform and, all this good stuff. I get all that. That's just not a direction that I want to go. Now, I see that there's some comments here. Where did it go here? Let's go back to our live chat. And here we'll put some stuff on the screen here. Oh, you guys are really chatty today. So let's see. So my VA lady says, Rumble used to rule when Bongino was on the platform, not so much since all they care about is making the platform like a TV channel with their big lineup of Crowder, Pool, and Brand. I don't have a problem with that necessarily. I mean, because again, it's their product. They could do what they want with it. But I have a theory. Here's my theory. If you're somebody that's a Steven Crowder, if you're a Russell Brand, you're a big name. If I remember correctly, there was this thing a long time ago with Steven Crowder where he was offered, I think it was by the Daily Wire, $50 million contract. Okay. If somebody's offering you a $50 million contract, guess what? You have a voice in your direction. You're doing well enough that you could be like, nah, that ain't a good enough deal, right? And still be quite comfortable. Like nobody's offering you a $50 million deal if you're struggling just to make your rent from, your live streams. Okay, that's not how that works. So I have this theory that that basically you have your top tier folk. These are the Steven Crowders, the Tim Pools. These are the ones that have grown so massive that they can really direct where they go, right? And they can easily say no to certain, they can come to Rumble and say they're more a part of the negotiating process. They can say, I'm not coming there unless you do this, right? I don't have that weight. And that's fine. Not yet. With your help, though, we'll get there. Then I think you have at the bottom end, you have your folks that are streaming. Maybe it's a hobby for them. Maybe it's just a small side hustle that they're doing kind of for fun, but they're not really relying on it for their pay, right? They're not like, okay, this is my bread and butter. I have to make money or I can't eat, right? Because their channels are small, their audience is small, and the revenue stream is just very limited, okay? You have those folks. Then I think you have folks in the middle, and I think this probably comprises of many, but I would imagine that most are probably in the lowest tier. But let's say the middle tier, and these are the folks where, okay, just streaming alone isn't going to be sufficient, so you offer other things for multiple reasons. Number one, you do it because, hey, it's wise to have multiple streams of revenue, because if you have multiple streams of revenue and one of them gets on your nerves, as the great Walter Williams once said, you can tell him take a hike, okay? Or I think he said, tell him go to hell. And I think that's a good thing. It's always wise to try to diversify your revenue stream so that you're not at the behest of just one. Okay, that's kind of like how a lot of people feel in their jobs. And if you're trying to be an entrepreneur, it seems better to not have to be accountable to some other particular company that you're utilizing for your product or your service. So I think there's a combination of people need to do that in order to diversify their revenue streams, and they need to do that because no one single revenue stream is sufficient to meet what they're looking for, whether it's a need or a goal. Okay, I think that represents a fair handful, but I think most people are somewhere either trying to enter that stage or they are smaller folk who are just doing it as a hobby or maybe a side hustle. It's kind of like the people that do an Uber driver. I've never met somebody who's like, all I do is drive for Uber and I make tons of money and I support my whole life with that and my family. Like I just, because I don't think it's possible. I think it's more of a side hustle, and that's fine. That's cool. I'm not dogging anybody here. I'm just kind of giving you my view, a lay of the land. And so I think what's happening is Rumble is tapping into the people that are at the bottom of, the bottom tier and saying, all right, these people are going to help us build out our platform, help us work out all the bugs and all that stuff. But in order to do so, you're basically an employee. And so you behave like an employee would. You get work, you deliver the work, right? They tell you here are the requirements, and then you meet them, or you don't, and you're no longer, quote unquote, an employee. Now, again, I'm not disparaging them. I'm just saying I think this is the lay of the land because that's kind of what I see elsewhere. Like one of my friends was telling me, he said, Amazon, he said, used to be great because you could get on there and you could do the, what do they call that? Where you maybe talk on your show, or maybe you had a blog and you put a link into it for a product, and then when somebody followed that link, if they bought that product, you would get a portion of it, right? You had this, and he said, but what ended up happening is people started gaming the system, and so then the requirements for you to be able to do that just went up and up and up and up and up until they became what it felt like for many, astronomical. And that's kind of what I feel like is going on with Rumble here. You know, they keep adding these requirements, and I'm like, I'm spending way too much of my time worrying about your requirements, not my show. That's not going to work for me. I need to be able to focus on my show. I only have a limited amount of time. I'm not able to get to everything already as it is. I don't need to add any more difficulties. However, I kind of am, because in getting away from their metrics, now I'll be back to square one, where I'm worried about my metrics and my own growth. And then I will have to, figure out all the ways for which you can support the show where that benefits me monetarily. So I am kind of trading one hassle for another. But I believe that this other hassle will be better for me because it fits more with what I'm trying to do. And what I'm trying to do is, number one, deliver a good show, something quality that you can listen to on your way to work or whenever. And then you can say, wow, that's very interesting. And then also when as we grow, we, meaning you, the audience, you learn more about me, you become confident that if I say, hey, you should, I'm going to cover it up but if you should drink this drink, you can't see it because the green screen is taking out the lid. But if I say you should drink this drink, then you say, oh, okay. And if I say it's healthy, then I want you to feel confident that I'm not misleading you. In the same way that I want you to feel confident that I'm not misleading you when I talk about things, politics and culture and whatnot. I want you to basically say, DL has his crap together, and if he tells me something, he's more than likely going to be correct, right? And he's definitely not going to be deceiving. So that's what that's the kind of show that I'm trying to build. Now, it does mean, at some point, money is a factor. You have to consider that. So I will be working over the next few days, over the next week, to put everything into place. So, for instance, I'm getting a Patreon going, okay? We will have the Patreon put out for you guys here in the next couple of days. I'm going through it. I got to try to figure out their system because I've never been on it. So I have to figure out the navigation, where to go, what to set up, how to do this, how to do that. So it takes a little bit of time. It's just not something I can just go in there and just clickety-click and do. Right. I mean, the reason for that is because I'm 47 and not 17. If I was 17, I'd probably already have this done by now because I would just magically know how it works. That's what happens when you're 17. This was, but my son is not 17, so I can't hand him the remote and say, son, turn on channel 5 for me because I can't figure this out. So I have to figure this out. And because I'm an old, it takes a little bit longer. And that's just my deadpan joke, guys. So bear with me. So anyway, that's what I've got going on. Now, I will address some critique that I did not like, and I'm not totally trashing Rumble, but I did have some problems with something that was said online. So I'm going to pull that up on the screen because I want we're going to go through this and we're going to critique because, hey, nobody in my world, nobody is above rebuke. Nobody is above critique. Not even people that are effectively paying me. Okay, that's not how I operate. So let me pull this up on the screen for you guys, and then you can see it. So this guy here, Tim the Tool Man, I don't think it's the Tim the Tool Man that I grew up with. I think he's just a guy that's named Tim who does tools, who has something to do with tools. He said, having ad reads as a requirement is BS. Rumble Video needs more eyeballs on their platforms, not more people reading ads. I specifically do not do ad reads on my content because it's a turnoff to viewers. Free money? Sure, I'm turning it down. Okay? Fair critique. Say, hey, that doesn't fit with what he's trying to do. Okay? So then here's Chris, who I believe is the CEO of Rumble. And his first line just really kind of rubbed me the wrong way because he said, the creator program is not a charity. It's a way to help small creators learn how to use Rumble and generate revenue using the tools we have available. Okay, so Chris, if you're watching, if you happen to catch this episode, as a lot of people tried to tell you, that's not how we see it. We don't think of it as a charity. Maybe some people do. But a lot of us looked at it and said, I don't think that really fits with what I'm trying to do. And I'm already meeting your requirements and spending a great deal of time talking to my audience about, hey, help me meet these requirements. Okay? So the idea that you would come out and your first sentence is, hey, this is not a charity, man, screw you. You know, and I don't mean that like I'm taking my ball and going home from Rumble. I'm just saying on this particular comment, screw you, man, because a lot of people are working hard. You know, we're working hard to make sure that we deliver a good show. We're working hard to make sure that, hey, we support Rumble, who is effectively supporting us by offering a platform, you know, for us to work. And you can have a platform on Rumble and you can have it completely free if you want, or you can pay and get some features. That's cool. Again, I'm all for the free market. I'm all for people getting paid for their work. But do not dare insult me by saying, hey, if I raise some objections about something, that all of a sudden you're like, oh, you think it's a charity? In fact, let me just tell it to you this way. I actually have a job that I work 40 hours a week. And when something gets passed down, sometimes I will raise an objection, or sometimes my teammates raise an objection with my boss. We say, whoa, 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 that's not cool. No, here's the problem with that. And then sometimes through the course of conversation, it works out and we realize it's not as bad as we initially thought. And sometimes it is something that we push back on and we don't do. So the idea that somebody can object and the only reason that they would object is because they think of it as a charity is insulting, you know? And so I think he needs to be a little bit more mindful with his words, because at the end of the day, if all the creators just stopped, if we all went somewhere else, guess who's going to be helping you use all the tools that you have available, Chris? Nobody. So don't be a jerk to us. No creator needs to be part of the program. You can still earn revenue without the program and use things at your discretion. That's cool. I like that. And this whole ad campaign thing, it has been available. I just didn't really know about it, and I kind of ignored it until I got an email saying, hey, now it's part of a requirement. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And by the way, I want to reiterate, Chris, I got an email halfway through the day on Monday, August 1st, about a change that was being made in August. I had zero time to prepare and to think about a strategy if I wanted to go forward with that. But the chatters, I did. I got the email about chatters, and I can go look it up in the middle of June saying, hey, in July, you're going to have this new requirement. And so what did I do? You can go back through my streams. I started telling people, hey, there's going to be a new requirement. Help me out. Let's get prepared. Let's grow this podcast together. Let's help, facilitate and utilize Rumble's tools, right? So I was all on board, but then you throw something at me after the beginning of the month when I have no time to prepare and I got to figure out, okay, what is this? How does it work? It is now the 5th. It is for 5 days in, and I can tell you how it works. I don't know. It didn't take me 5 days. It's just 5 days to get here and tell you about it. But what I'm saying is, like, it took me a couple of days to really wrap my head around it and go, okay, what's going on here? What are the options? How does this work? When does it not work? How does it count? Blah, blah. All those questions answers. And I had to go through and figure things out, and part of that was that the stream kept bonking out on me when I use when I would, because right now I'm using RTMP. That's just basically fancy language for saying the audio and video is going directly from my laptop to the Rumble server. If I were using the web browser version, then basically what it would do is that's an intermediary where all my audio and all my video goes to the web browser first. The web browser then packages it up and sends it to Rumble servers. So that's basically the difference that you have there. Okay. And it is actually better to use the RTMP, the direct. But it's a new layout. I had to figure things out. And in the process, I was like, oh, here's something about this ad campaigns. Here's a little bit more. Oh, okay. I see what's going on now. Right. So it took me, if I hadn't joined went into the RTMP, then I might still be trying to figure out the details of the requirement that's already started that I'm missing out on. So I found that a bit offensive that you would throw this at me after it starts, after I've already done my first show, and then turn around and go, yeah, it's not a charity, guys. Well, okay, it doesn't have to be a charity, but maybe you could improve your communication. Not only delivery, like timeliness, but also how you talk to people. Because and a lot of people in the comments, they responded, they're like, dude, we don't think it's a charity. We just don't like this particular change. Okay, well, it's okay to think I don't like this particular change. I wasn't a big fan of the chatters. Okay, but I did it. So then we go on. So a few, I'm not going to read all the conversation, but a little bit later, Chris then goes, he's responding to somebody. He says, that's correct. Everyone is monetized on day one with all the tools. They don't need to be in the creator program to get these options. The creator program is an incentive program to help creators discover these tools. And yes, we pay them extra to do that. So this really feels like being an employee, right? You're like, oh, we're paying you extra to use these tools that we're creating. Okay, so it sounds like you want us to help you develop and work these things out and improve them so that you have, something that you can use. And that's fine, okay? And I have no issues with that, okay? But again, this insulting attitude, that's a bit of a problem for me, all right? The fact that you can't communicate that until after the last minute, that's also a problem for me. So what else we got here? There's another. So yeah, here's somebody. He goes, no one said it was a charity. We've all worked hard to get in and stay in the program, but your requirements are showing that the platform is first priority and the creator is secondary. That won't get you far when you're trying to establish loyalty among the people who generate your revenue. He's correct. I don't feel like he's trying to grow my channel, Chris. I feel like he's trying to improve his product by paying me some money to do it. Okay, that's an employee. Okay, but even at my job, I'm not talked to like that when I raise an objection about something that I'm supposed to do. This other person said, I don't think anyone is calling or considering the Rumble program a charity. We are stating that it's not a great change in the program. Exactly. Right? Like, that's how I see it. I just don't like this particular change. Okay? And when I start looking at all the changes in total, then I'm like, wait a minute here. Feels like I'm being used as an employee, which is fine if you want that. Like, some people might just be like, look, I'm a gamer and I do this for fun. And if you want me to read an ad for you while I'm playing my video game, cool, I'll do that. I'll take a moment, 30 seconds out and I'll read an ad and I don't even care what it is. Okay, that's fine if that's you. I have no issues, right? That is how mutual transactions work. Somebody says, we're offering this and we'll pay for this. And the other person says, I'm willing to do that. I'm not. So today's critique, my biggest critique is basically the attitude that the CEO shot back with. Okay, because if you're going to talk to me like that, then I'm out. And he wasn't really talking to me, but I'm saying, like, if that's the attitude you have, then that says something about the relationship that we have. That it's not really bi-directional, right? It's not really me helping you, you helping me. It's really you helping you, me helping you. That's how it comes across when you have that kind of stinking attitude. And so you can just go away with that attitude. Like, that's Now, all that being said, just because somebody has a bad attitude doesn't mean they have a bad product. I do think that Rumble is a nice, growing product, and I'm willing to stay with it for a while, unless they watch this and then get mad and kick me off. Well, who knows? You never know these days. So that's my critique. I think I'd be belaboring it to say anymore, but I did want to show you one more thing. So this is what it looks like on so whenever you've watched the show and you see like, oh, it looks like the audio's out or something's happening, let me just show you what I see on my end, okay? Because I managed to take a screenshot of it. So that's what it ends up looking like, okay? And it was very frustrating. So I saw that on Thursday night. I was streaming, and then all of a sudden it goes blank, and it's like, hey, refresh the page. I click refresh the page, and I have to reset my audio, reset my video, okay? And this was on Thursday. I was trying to get my last numbers in, right? The numbers that, aren't a charity, that I was working hard to make sure happen. Yeah, and then on Friday, I have to deal with this nonsense. And then on Monday morning, I was dealing with it again, okay? So, for me, if you're going to come at me with this attitude, perhaps at least fix your shit. I'm just saying. So, but anyway, ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm not really terribly angry with them. I don't like some things. I'm just going to do my own. And so look forward to some changes coming up here in the next few days. But for now, let's get to some comments here, see what you guys are chatting it up. Since I was able to get the live chat on the screen, we might as well at least get the live chat on the screen, right? So let's see what else we got here. Let's see here. Yes. So I'm sorry, that Liberty lady, reading the wrong one there, said my emails are respectful. The cyberbullying of these officials, though, they get what they get. No, I agree. When you're, especially when it depends on what they're talking about. Like, right? Like if a politician comes out and they says something, I'll just use Randy Fine as an example. If Randy Fine comes out talking his trash about, the Palestinians and how they can all die or whatever, then yes, we should totally bully him and say mean things to him. Don't get yourself in trouble. Don't make any threats, okay? But, bully him a little bit. It'll be all right. He'll grow. He's probably not even reading them anyway. Let's see what else we got. Yes. Rumble keeps shifting the Overton window with their requirements. They kind of do. And again, I don't have a beef with that necessarily. My biggest beef was to the attitude that you're coming to the table with regarding those who are objecting. Rather than saying, "Hey guys, check this out. I think you're missing something. Here's what I want you to know. Here's why this is actually a good thing." And hopefully try to temper their objections. But then also, not telling me until the program's already underway. That's kind of lame. Let's see. Let's see here. Kagela says, I have now chatted on Rumble for August. I appreciate it. And look, if things change, then I'll figure out how to deal with it. The other thing that I kind of like with kind of going my own way, I'm like a man going I'm just kidding. What I like about this change of direction, the drawback will be I'm not going to make, money, which I wasn't making. It's not like I was making thousands and thousands of dollars, but I'm not going to be making the money that I was, which is fine. I understand that. But the thing I like is that I was actually trying to dial down my shows so that they weren't as long. And, instead of going down, closer to 45 minutes, I ended up creeping up to closer to like an hour and a half because I had to have 30 hours in. And if you do the math on 30 hours in roughly 20 days a week, you can't just do an hour, right? You can't do 45 minutes. But it does cost me more when I try to take all of that and put it into audio format for my folks on Spotify and iTunes and whatnot, right? So it's not just the cost of the Rumble Creator Program, it's other costs that I have associated with it that I have to consider. So maybe some creators aren't dealing with that, and that's cool. Yes, this was an objection that a lot of people made. They said people pay for Rumble Premium to not hear commercials. Now they're getting forced to listen to commercials. Not surprised that they are Trump commercials and pharmaceutical commercials. Somewhere I said that, a lot of people were like, oh, they're going to ban pharmaceuticals from television and from radio. And I was like, you're just going to find them on podcast, because it's not, I think I did it in a bill review. I'm going to have to go look it up, and maybe just put that out there. So, but it turns out your humble host was ever so prescient. Let's see what else we got in here. Yes. Uncle Smitty's correct. The big misalignment that jumped out for me between your show and the Rumble platform is when your show airs. It is much harder to do the numbers when you're doing a morning show versus an evening show. Yes, you are correct. And one of the reasons that I do a morning show is twofold for anybody that's new and listening in. Number one, I fit it around my son's schedule. He goes to school. He's out of school right now, but in about a week, he's going to go back to school. And so this was a perfect time for me to do the show. And then my wife and I worked out a good schedule so that I could do the show and then immediately jump into work. Because right after the show, I get off and I go right to my work laptop. The other reason is that there's a lot of other creators out there who have way bigger channels in the primetime slots. And so if somebody's got like thousands of viewers and then I show up to challenge them at the same time, like there's going to be a certain level of loyalty and it's going to be very difficult to compete with them, because it's not like I'm giving you in a sense it's a different product, but in a way it's not. It's a similar product. And, there's a certain amount of loyalty and personality that plays a role in it. And so I was just like, I don't want to compete against people that are basically producing, a similar, political type show, who already have, an audience that's large, and, trying to pull from their audience is going to be tough. Now, maybe that was a bad decision on my part, and maybe I should do it in the evening. I don't know. But it also helped out in the morning. So that's where we are. Let's see. What else? Let's see. Yes, Joe summarizes it nicely. Freedom of association. That's all what it is. And again, I just want to be. I know I had some tough words for Rick and for Rumble. And it's not meant out of hatred. I'm not begrudging them per se, other than the email thing. That one really kind of irritated me, because I was like, dude, seriously, if you're going to give me a requirement, send it to me ahead of time so I can prepare adequately. That one kind of got me. Kagela says, is the juice worth the squeeze? Maybe. And then he also said, I appreciate DL's integrity. Thank you so much. And I will do my best to be as straightforward and honest with you guys. Also, I'm going to try not to do too many of these kind of shows. There's a fine line between being straightforward and transparent, and then, telling people more than they really need to know, more than they may even care about. I got an ad for a Republican politician tax plan. You're going to get taxed for that ad. Let's see what else. Oh, yes, my VA lady who puts in so much work with the show said, I've been trying hard to get Liberty Dad monetized on YouTube. Then he can get monthly subs and super chats. Yes, we are working. So if you're watching from YouTube, please stay watching, tune in, and promote the show. All right, do the things that help the show there. Comment, like it, hit the bell. I believe that's where the bell is. I don't think Rumble has a bell necessarily, or maybe they do and I'm just misinformed. Let's see. What else here? Let's see here. What do we got here? Oh, Time Surfing Alien says, too much Trump praise on Rumble. Can't make a comment without someone saying something about the orange crinkle sack. That's interesting. Well, not on this channel. If he does something good that I can appreciate objectively, then yes, I'll give him credit for it. Like he freed Ross. Objectively a high value ad. All right? No argument there. And it was a campaign promise. Right? So kudos to him for that. Pretty much everything else, though, is a different story. Yes, I'll be coming with this. That Liberty Lady says, also Liberty Dad has an affiliate link for Maj's Black Guns Matter shop. That's an ad commercial. I hope to see more. Yes, you will. Working on that. There's a lot of things that I'm trying to work on, and I'm trying to fit it all into the schedule. All right. Well, I think that's it today. So we're going to cut on out of here. I will see you guys tomorrow. We're going to get back to our regularly scheduled program tomorrow. That's going to be our 47 weekly, where, speaking of Donald Trump, I will give you my perspective of what he's been up to in this last week. I've got some things bookmarked already, some thoughts on those. So, and again, if he does something good, well, then I'll acknowledge it. And when he does something bad, inevitably, I will critique it. And depending on how bad it is, I may critique it very harshly. We shall see. Yes, we'll be talking about that tomorrow. Where did it go? Oh, let's go back to the live chat. There we go. Yeah, Joe says Trump wants to punish companies for not supporting Israel. That is true, or at least he did, and then it seems to be backing away from it now. But we'll talk about that tomorrow on the show. Look forward to seeing you guys then. But for now, I'm going to head out. I will see you. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this episode informative and inspiring. Be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, or if you prefer my Rumble channel, you can go to youtube.libertydad.com, or you can go to rumble.libertydad.com. While you are there, let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. Remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people, and your product